All right, so that was cool to get to know each other a little bit through your reading experiences. I heard some stories about golden books and about parents reading out loud to you, some favorite stories like Nancy Drew. So all those things, even if we haven't thought about them in a long time, are still part of who we are as readers, and being able to name that in ourselves is important as we start to work with our own readers. So how we've organized these classes for you is that we thought if we are asking you guys to try out some reading and writing workshops, you're going to get to experience them in this class. So we have some parallel experiences planned for you. So first, what we're going to start off with is a reading workshop model. Then we'll transition also into a writing workshop model later, and you'll also get to try some balanced literacy centers. So keeping in mind that we are all adults, this might look a little bit different in your classroom, but the same structure can definitely still work. So we are going to spend actually I think 20 minutes working on our writing workshop. Reading workshop. The essential components are the mini lesson, the independent practice, then the conferencing time that's during that independent practice, and also a share time. So what we're going to start, so parallel experience. This is an example, a quote here from Benjamin Franklin. You might have heard of him. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. So we're hoping that by involving you guys, you will remember all these things. And then Dawn put in some humor here.
I'm a Game of Thrones fan, and so to me, you can't really implement best practice until you experience it yourself. And so it's about to get real. Brace yourselves. We're asking you to participate in a meaningful reading, writing workshop and in Balanced Literacy Station. So we want you to be mindful that we're expecting your full participation. So if you need to silence your cell phones or minimize any additional browsers that are pulled up, that's only going to help you be able to take it back to your classroom. So we just want you to get ready to fully engage, okay?
All right, so what we're going to start with today, the mini lesson is going to be from a book that's called Open a World of Possible. I have a hard copy of this, but it is a free PDF. You can get it online, and we have the link for you later in this blend space, so you have access to this. So this is a collection of stories about the joy and power of reading from some names you might recognize, like Jennifer Saravallo and some of those kinds of people. And the one that I've chosen for you today is by Pat Mora. I don't know if any of you are familiar with some of her books, but her section is on book joy. So you'll also notice at your table that you have a handout that's called the Reading Response Handout. It was in a stack that I slipped to some of you guys, and I know some of you guys don't have copies yet because we ran out, and I'm getting more for you. So as you're listening to this passage, thinking about what did you notice and what did the text tell you about the author's experience. You have a space on there for you to jot down some ideas as you're listening, and we also are giving you the original passage. So this one's called Book Joy. The sound of the desert wind carries me back to our rock house in El Paso, Texas. Conversations and teasing in English and Spanish were the braided music in our childhood home. Nighttime stories comforted my 3 siblings and me. Words soaked into us: moon, luna, star, estrella. In time, books extended our verbal experiences. Magic. I wouldn't be me without books. Early on, I discovered their pleasure and power. All my reading was in English, though my aunt and grandmother read their prayer books in Spanish. Neither of my parents had the opportunity to go to college, but they invested in books. Among my favorites were the Childcraft series, particularly the poetry book. When I was homesick, I'd pull down that orange volume and savor Old King Cole, Daffy Down Dilly, and Ladybird, Ladybird. Opening other books in time, I rode in elegant carriages, learned with Clara Barton, traveled to Russia, heard the wind on a faraway prairie, tasted sorghum molasses, and solved mysteries with Nancy Drew, all through black symbols on a white page. Such wonder. Early in life, books became a rich and dominant thread in my family fabric, my memories. Reading was part of my school memories too, waiting in anticipation for a teacher to read aloud the next section of B is for Betsy, memorizing poems the nuns assigned year after year, rhythms that are still part of me. Through reading, I discovered, and still discover, that sitting still at home or in a plane, I can shed my physical self, forget about me, and enter a place or ideas created by a fellow human I'll probably never meet. Reading expands me. When my 3 children were little, I experienced the intimate joy of sharing a habit I loved, reading. How we reveled in Mother Goose and books by Beatrix Potter and Richard Scarry. Now I watch my adult children when, with a smile, they hold their old, worn books. Each thinks, "This is mine, I loved it best." They savor book memories, the books that were and are their steady friends. That private family joy prompted me years ago to write my own children's books, to hand other children some reading pleasure. I imagined a young stranger opening one of my books. Now my daughter Libby, who writes with me, also visualizes an unknown reader. Libby and I laugh together as we revise and revise to create book joy. Because I'd grown up bilingual, I've reached out to children in English and Spanish. Slowly, I began to realize that not all of our children were equally valued. Many children didn't see the details of their daily lives affirmed on the page. I realized that growing up a reader, I'd never read about a family who spoke 2 or more languages or who enjoyed cheese enchiladas on a Friday night. What we called American children's literature wasn't a balanced sampling of wonderful voices and traditions, of our plurality. I discovered how parents who spoke many other languages hadn't had my extensive literacy experience in English. Indeed, many felt ashamed of not speaking English. Many low-income parents, including English-speaking parents, didn't feel welcomed at schools, libraries, and museums, nor had they been coached to support their children's reading habit. My reading life has been long and rich. Reading helps me to understand my country and my world, our cultural, religious, and personal complexities. In 1996, I founded a family literacy initiative to honor all children and to share book joy with them. It's often known as Dia, which means day in Spanish. Dia, this daily commitment, significantly altered my life and has, I hope, enriched the lives of many committed literacy supporters. By 2018, children of color will be the majority in our country. Together, all of us who value all our children can work together to create a diverse reading nation, proclaiming again and again that literacy is essential in a democracy. I now have a grandbaby, a granddaughter, and I'm savoring the opportunity to share stories and books with Bonnie, to continue a cherished family tradition. I want Bonnie and all our children to be anticipating the next story, their next book. All our children deserve alegría en los libros, book joy. So that's the excerpt. Take just a second and think about those 2 questions that are at the top there. So what did you notice? And what did the text tell you about the author's experience as a reader?